Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another Find the Neutrophil stream. I'm so glad to see all of you. What's up? It's been a bit of time, although in terms of how often I stream, this is pretty much par for the course. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Hello, John the Eosinophil. Hello, Scott Bruner. Hello, Fire Ice UK. And hello, Atomic Banana. Welcome. If you all have interesting foods you'd like for me to try in the future, please leave them in the comments. I would love to know, especially because, 10K is not impossible to achieve by the end of 2024. So eventually I will do a stream where I eat some of these foods live and tell you what I think about them, because not everything on this list is stuff that I've had before, surprisingly. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm excited to talk about food. I love food so much, as you all know. Being a professional phagocyte, I love to consume, and I'll be talking a little bit about my culinary journey, eating through things that most people usually eat for reaction content on YouTube. I have nothing besides the mystery food I throw together when I'm ravenously hungry in the morning. Sometimes hunger is the best spice, so whatever gets you through is going to be the best thing that you've probably eaten all day, especially if that's morning time. Mystery food, sus, true. All right, so something that I want to talk about a little bit before we start rating things proper. Let me just go ahead and put on some lo-fi music as we do here. I want to talk about something that I'm plugging, which is the fact that I will be streaming with a Twitch streamer called Nep, and we're going to be doing a journal club on phytoplasma. So phytoplasma are little pathogens that infect plants, and since I have no idea how plants work, I've invited Nep to come on my channel so that she can help me figure out what this pathogen actually does. And why I picked this particular paper is that you can plainly see the morphological difference between infected plants and non-infected plants. And I kind of wanted to get into how that even happens. So Nep herself is a horticulturalist, and so I think she'll be a great collab partner to have on while we talk about the science of plant infection. That'd be pretty cool. All right, so challenge you to eat a whole durian live. That wouldn't even really be a challenge because I love durian, as we'll get into. All right, Atomic Banana, if you're making food right now, I hope you've got a strong stomach because there's some gnarly stuff up here. Thank you, Toxo, for the plug there. Yes, please go do check Nep out. I think she's a great streamer, very comfy, very cozy, very entertaining, and a deep pool of knowledge about plants and insects, which I hope to tap for collaborations in the future. Hello, Romagnolo. Just in time. Yes. Ooh, let me scooch back up. All right. So a little note before we talk about quote-unquote exotic foods. These are exotic, of course, from an American perspective. Some of these are actually natively American foods, not Native American, but native to the United States. And just as a note, let's not, disparage any culture's cuisine. We all have things that we're very proud of and that we're not so proud of. This is more of like a chance to talk about foods that you may not have encountered before. That I have, being privileged enough to live in food cities that have a great deal of diversity and cultural melting potness. So I just kind of want to talk about my experience with a lot of these foods, and maybe even tap, the cellmates as to which one of these have you had, what were your thoughts on them, and of course, again, if you've ever had like anything bizarre or strange that you think would be entertaining to watch me have on stream, I'm all ears for that. So before I start with the ranking, let's just go through what I have on this list. So last night it was like 34 items, and now it's all the way up to 40. So a lot of these are not like native English words, so I apologize ahead of time if I do screw up the enunciations. I'll go over what they are as I rank them, but just to give you a preview of what we're dealing with here, there's Aryan, Byondegi, chicken liver, sustroming, chicken feet. I believe this is cow liver. Sashimi, which I know some people might not find that exotic at all, but that's kind of the point. It's exotic to some people. Rocky Mountain oysters, a United States marketing invention. Marmite / Vegemite. I know I'm going to pronounce this wrong because I just looked it up before stream and I could not get the hang of it, so I'm just going to read it as written. Akutak. Gefilte fish. Cow omasum, cow tripe, durian, as a couple of cellmates have pointed out. I love durian there, and I'll get to why in a little bit. Hakarl, balut, sentry eggs, bird's nests. What are these? Gators, right. Crocodile, alligators, that kind of stuff. Fish eye, spam. This one is... Oh, cordyceps, yes. Everybody loves cordyceps. Not a lot of people know that this is actually food for some people. Haggis, olives, Parmesan blue cheese, gooey duck, snails, stargazy pie, which I believe Cider had talked about last time I streamed, or one of the last times I streamed. Aspic, and then I'm just going to lump all of American vintage into one category. I'll talk about what that is in when we get there. Snake, turtle, blood sausage, frog legs, brain, shiokara. Oh, shirako, yeah. Crickets, stinky tofu, and duck tongues. So that is the menu we are going to be working with today. Just looked up durian. Its smell was described as evoking reactions ranging from deep appreciation to intense disgust. That's exactly correct. That's butyric acid for you. As high concentration, it smells like puke for most people, but not all, interestingly. Yeah, I actually, when I started eating durian, the first time was pretty unpleasant, but not unpleasant enough to convince me to not at least give it a try, because I know that some foods smell different than they taste, and durian is definitely one of those examples. I will spoil it. Mountain oysters are bull testicles. You did spoil it. Cordyceps, yes, from the game The Last of Us. That is correct. Cordyceps are a food. They're very expensive. They're kind of like an herbal, traditional medicine kind of deal. And I have had them in the past, and I'll tell you all about it when I get there. Okay. So, Aaron, this first item, this is kind of starting in a pretty good place when it comes to talking through cultural bias, right? Because this is, I believe, from Turkey, and it's a yogurt drink, so it's yogurt water, and it's also got salt in it. And so this is a salty yogurt drink, which I, of course, had to try. But the first time that I had it, it was, not gonna lie, pretty unpleasant. It's just, having never experienced drinking something salty before, it was an immediate turnoff. But in retrospect, I think at some point I could definitely get into something like a salted yogurt drink. Yes, Ariane is from the Middle East. That is what I learned when I Googled it, because I remember I had gotten it delivered when I was eating some delivery food back when I was in undergrad, thinking that I would love it. But there's something, upon your first try, quite shocking about drinking something that salty. But I think I could get into it one day. So for me, this is right now going in the unpleasant tier. But I do think that with enough tries, if I get the opportunity, that I could probably bump that up, definitely. Well, you've had some real Sichuanese food, frog legs. Yeah, so frog legs aren't exclusively a Chinese food. There are a lot of other cultures that do it as well. It's just that the version that I have had is prepared in the Chinese fashion, yeah. Salted lemonade is good, but salted yogurt doesn't seem as appealing to me. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why, because when I think yogurt, I think sweet. So I was thinking a sweet and salty drink, but it was just salty, and that really threw me off. So the next item is byondegi. So byondegi is silkworm pupa, and I bought these at an Asian specialty snack store in a random mall not too far from where we live here in America. So these are I believe, a common Korean like pub snack. I think you just eat them as is when they come out of the can. And the thing about eating bugs is that if you've ever watched The Lion King and you've watched the scene where Simba first learns how to eat bugs from Timon and Pumbaa, you know, there are some people that are going to be grossed out by that scene, but if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. They make those bugs look so appetizing. They're like colorful, they're juicy, they're like living gushers or something. So I've always had a fascination with eating bugs, but more often than not, I find myself completely disappointed as to how they actually taste, unfortunately. Oh yeah, you remember? Yeah, that scene is so good. Right, yeah. So these, I expected them to have kind of a, and when people talk about eating insects, and by the way, we should all attempt or at least try, as I will continue. Anytime that I'm offered an insect to try, I will try it, because insects are a great source of protein without, consuming any fat. So nutritionally, they're pretty intense and very economically friendly, very sustainable, just all around really good for you. But I can't get over the fact that byondegi tastes like dirt. I've actually tried cooking with the leftover byondegi. I thought the texture was okay. It didn't really turn me off too much. It's just, at the end of the day, these taste like dirt, and that's why they are unpleasant. I'm gonna find out how to make some and other worms. Yeah, like, I don't know, worms are like living noodles. I don't know. Like, I never found them to be that disgusting as an idea. I just kind of wished that these creepy crawlies actually tasted good. All right, next, chicken liver. So chicken liver is, again, not that exotic, but I think, like, when I'm saying exotic, I'm thinking like the most milquetoast American palate you can imagine, right? And some people wince at the thought of eating organ, which, you know, if you already eat meat, then eating the organs is not any, you know, you're just making more efficient use of the entire animal, right? So on principle, if you are already eating meat, eating organs should, you should try them. And I think chicken liver, when prepared the way that I prefer to prepare them, which is steamed in Chinese cooking wine and soy sauce, topped with ginger, garlic, and spring onions, is an absolute S-tier food. As good as stuff that is more appealing to a general public. I find myself often wanting to eat chicken liver, but Toxo is not as big of a fan, so I tend not to buy unless we can both share something. But sometimes I'll get the intense craving and then I'll have to get myself some chicken liver. Now, I mostly don't eat meat nowadays, but this preparation for chicken liver, when you steam it in cooking wine, is so good that I'll occasionally indulge. Scott Bruner, it's called Chan Muai. Oh, what is that? I may have missed it from earlier in the chat. Hello, F Yang, welcome. Liver tastes amazing. I like the pig ones better though. I've never actually had pig liver, but yeah, liver tastes awesome if you've had it prepared correctly. I forgot to check. Is my music okay? Can we all hear the audio? Or did I... Ooh, I'm muted. I muted the audio. Let's turn that back on. Let me know if the audio is too loud or too quiet. By this definition, would cow tongue qualify? And have you had it too? It's delicious taco meat. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you, Pole Volter. I have had beef tongue tacos before, and I would say that's probably a must-have as well. When I was cataloging all of my weird food experiences, that's one that I didn't think to put on the list. But yeah, those are absolutely delicious. Make it a little louder. You got it. What about cow skin? I don't really know about that, if that's a dish. So the thing that has to qualify for the list is that it has to be enjoyed by somebody. It can't just be terrible, technically edible things. It has to be something that a culture appreciates. And if a culture appreciates it, then it qualifies for this kind of discussion. They sell it at my meat market. Interesting. I wonder what they're used for. So this next item very, very well known surströmming. So this is, I believe, fermented herring. And it is probably the king of YouTube reaction content because it is described by many as the smelliest food to ever exist. So bad that you have to open the can outside, submerged under a bucket of water so that the smell doesn't penetrate through every absorbable surface. So I've never actually had surströmming before. I like the idea of fermented fish, I like the idea of fermentation, and I like the idea of fish, so a fermented fish to me doesn't seem all that crazy. And if I were to have this for 10k sub special, I would do it the proper way with flatbread, mashed potatoes, or boiled potatoes, onions, and all that. Because again, this isn't about reaction content. This is about me trying to appreciate as much as physically possible, right? So surströmming is going to get a 10k subs. Once I hit 10k subs, I will take you on a journey where I actually try this for myself and try to enjoy it instead of just make reaction content. Pole Volter had chicken heart at a Brazilian steakhouse, and honestly, it's an acquired taste. Yes, that's another one that I missed. Chicken heart actually, for me, would lie in like the 50-50 category. I don't really seek it out, but if it were to land on my plate, I wouldn't really mind, is how I feel about chicken heart. Eating during the stream, braver person than I am. These are good. Most of these are going to be quite good, I promise you. All right. Next is chicken feet. So this is not exclusive to Chinese cuisine, but it is one that is the context that I have had it in. Chicken feet, instant must-have for me in particular. I know a lot of people find that kind of skin texture gross, but I think that if you close your mind to a variety of textures, you limit yourself in terms of the dimensions of food that you can actually enjoy. And so I have a bit of a dim sum rant. A dim sum rant over here. It's okay to dislike certain foods, right? But what kind of, like, I don't know, I'm very opinionated when it comes to food, right? And so in my opinion, you're allowed to like what you like and you're allowed to dislike what you dislike, right? But I think that if you go to dim sum and all you get are dishes that can be found at any American Chinese restaurant, don't go to dim sum. I don't understand when I walk into a restaurant and I see, you know, the most adventurous thing someone ordering is like shumai or something, right? I think that there are better places to put your money if you are not going to try certain foods. So like chicken feet, if you've tried it once and decided that you don't like it, totally cool. But to me, like, there's an opportunity, right? I'm like I would describe myself as information addicted, where I like to learn as much about myself as physically possible. So most of the time, and Toxo can confirm that if we go to a restaurant multiple times, if I like something, I'll purposefully not get it the next time because I already figured out that I like it. And does that open me to a lot more negative dining experiences? Yeah, but also I just like knowing what I like in the future. And the more that you try things, the more things that you can confirm you like. So I highly encourage that if you go to dim sum, just try some random stuff. It's okay if you don't know how to say it in Chinese. Just point to the menus or point to the carts and, you know, leave yourself open to be pleasantly surprised. Chicken feet can also be used in some Mexican dishes, like pozole. I prefer it with shredded chicken, but I know my aunt always uses chicken feet. Interesting, interesting. I found it quite boring, too little meat. That's fair. Chicken feet is mostly a fatty texture kind of deal, where if what you crave is like that satisfying bite of meat, you're not going to get it with chicken feet. But if you want an excuse to eat fat and sauce, then chicken feet is pretty optimal for that kind of thing. Chicken hearts, that's my student food. It was cheaper than meat. True, made up about 10 recipes for chicken heart soup. That's awesome. I would definitely probably like to try that in the future as well. It's just that to buy chicken heart here in our grocery stores where we live is a huge commitment because you can't just buy like a couple servings. You have to get like a bucket. So that's always been a little intimidating for me. Chicken feet have a ratio of work meat that's too high for me. I mean, that's fair. Not everybody likes sucking on them toes. I don't really like it. I remember seeing chicken feet in chicken soup, and I only take the soup when I'm sick. I associate it with it being sick. That's an unfortunate psychological connection I have with it, but that is fair. And the other thing is, I like, if you have like sensitivity, if you have like an actual like you know, negative food stimulus is too much for you, or you have like digestive problems, you know, that's fine. I don't judge. It's the people who can explore but choose not to that I'm baffled by. Did not expect to hear Fi talk about sucking on toes during this stream, but fair enough. True, true. I love sucking on them toes. All right, next up we have cow liver. So I've actually only had cow liver one time, and it was on a school field trip where the food rest stop was at a random diner off the off of the highway. And I gotta say, cow liver as opposed to chicken liver was really in the border between 50-50 and unpleasant. It was edible, and again, like, at a diner, there were so many better options I could have ordered, but I had to know. I've never seen cow liver offered locally where I live. It was really mealy, like the texture, and I know I just ragged on people for not accepting texture as a variant, right? But not only was it mealy, the taste was actually way too irony for me. Cow liver gets an unpleasant rating. If you put liver anywhere higher than no, I'm unsubscribing. Unfortunate for you. There are so no is basically just reserved for items that I don't eat for either moral or like health reasons, which we'll see in the future. I think the lowest I will put something that I could eat again is unpleasant. I have now successfully created my first clip on your channel. So this is why I'm anonymous on the internet. This is why I am behind an avatar, because I'm totally cool with saying stuff like that as long as my students don't find out. All right. Next up we have sashimi. So again, to me, sashimi is like not exotic at all. I live in a pretty connected food city within the States, and so sashimi has never been exotic for me. But I know that a lot of people in places where, let's say, are quite inland, who don't have access to infrastructure that would allow them to get fresher fish, kind of wince at the idea of eating it raw. But sashimi, easy must-have. It's why, like, all the membership donos will go into a very nice sushi experience for Toxo and I. Because, again, you know, only feel the need... If you want to support the channel, you know, obviously go right ahead. I don't need the money, though. I live quite comfortably already. But just, like, whatever you choose to donate will go to buying us very nice fish, and I feel like it's good to be transparent that that's where your money is going. Yes, sashimi is Japanese. Raw fish, incredibly delicious. You get notes and flavors that you can only get from like the subtlety for not having cooked the actual fish, and so if you like subtle, layered, oily, fatty experiences, like sashimi is just so good. And like, again, I don't really eat that much meat nowadays, except when I'm on vacation, because I'm trying to move towards a more plant-based diet, and I've seen vegan salmon, and I'm willing to try it once it comes down in price, because a lot of vegan substitutes tend to be prohibitively expensive. Sashimi should not be in the same category as chicken liver and feet. This is my tier list. You can make your own later. I think sashimi can be found in pretty much any medium small city in the US, though. That's true, but I have met people whose reaction to the idea of eating sashimi is completely foreign, but I think that's less common nowadays. Definitely more common when I was younger. All right. Controversial opinion, durian isn't that bad. It is controversial of opinion, and I 100% agree with you. Why don't we just skip and do durian then, as we're talking about durian? So durian is basically the fruit equivalent of surströmming in the sense where it is the go-to reaction content to generate like gross out reactions, because the smell of durian is quite putrid. And I mean that I think in a scientific sense, where putrid specifically refers to rot rather than ferment. It smells terrible. But the thing is that it tastes different than how it smells, and that's really important to get across. And if you go to dim sum, there are some dim sum places that'll actually sell you a durian pastry, so a durian that's been treated and like with sugar. I actually don't know if they have sugar added to it, because durian on its own is quite sweet. But the thing about durian is that once you get past the smell, if you can will yourself through that phase of eating durian, it really is like a sweet banana custard, banana plus onion, I think is how I would describe it. You know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, when Aang has to get in touch with his avatar state and he's eating banana onion soup, I think that's the perfect description for how durian actually tastes. And the texture is unreal. It is eating nature's ice cream. It's so good. I remember the first time I had it, because my family doesn't eat durian, but we're of a cultural background where eating durian is not unusual. It's just that my parents never bought it because my parents don't like it. But I had these friends at school that would constantly tell me about how good durian is and how much they loved and craved it. So one day I asked my parents, like, can we try durian? And they kind of looked at me quizzically, because durian is not cheap. It's pretty expensive. So they were like, do you know what durian is? I was like, yeah, I know what durian is. I understand the reputation that durian has. And then they were like, you know how expensive it is, right? Like, if we buy it, then you have to eat it. And I was like, okay. I'm not afraid. I'm almost never afraid of food tasting bad. If there's a culture out there that appreciates the taste of a food, I'm almost confident that I'll always find a way to appreciate it too. So, you know, we had it for the first time, and I thought that it was tolerable, but just like Aaron, I felt that I could acquire the taste for it because it wasn't immediately repulsive. I didn't like gag or anything. And so I actually pilled my parents into enjoying durian too, because then they started to buy it on their own without consulting me. It's definitely an acquired taste, but one that if you can acquire it, I think pays dividends. I really want to try durian someday. I hear it's very tasty, just that the smell can be very off-putting for some people. Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of Asian grocery stores in the States that will carry durian in the frozen aisle, but be warned that they're quite difficult to manage, because the shell is very spiky and you can actually quite severely hurt yourself if you don't know how to handle a durian properly. The best way to enjoy durian, in my opinion, is to go to a dim sum in a local Chinatown and just hope that they have durian pastries there. That's the best like entry level durian that I can suggest. What's my favorite food? I have so many, is the thing. So favorite is kind of an imprecise term that I want to define right now, in the sense that there's like favorite as in the highest amount of dopamine, serotonin that you get upon consumption. So like when you take a bite, it just fills you with so much joy. And then there's favorite in the sense where if there's a food that you would remove from your life permanently, the difference in how sad you would be is also a measure of favorite, right? So I think for me, right now, as I'm thinking about this question, mackerel, like mackerel sashimi would be the thing that brings me the most joy when I eat it. That answer is subject to change, but right now that's my favorite. Blue cheese. Okay, so let's try blue cheese then. So the reason why I put blue cheese here is because, again, I'm an American and I'm trying to do like a global exotic food thing, and I know that blue cheese is not that unusual for Americans, but it is for, you know, say for example Asians, whose cheese like culture mostly I think consists of, you know, milder cheeses, we'll say. Blue cheese is okay. I think it's acceptable. I think it's quite good with buffalo wings. I think it's quite good with fruit. Stinkier cheeses, I think, go great with fruit. I don't have the opportunity to eat them too often. I went to a very fancy grad school, and they would always have like a plate of fruit and cheese, and I would always take advantage of that because, you know, starving grad school, starving grad student. But nowadays, I don't really buy cheese because it's not a meal ingredient. Not one that it's not a meal ingredient in the type of cooking that I do at home, at least. But I think blue cheese is all right. You're a man of extremes, nothing in the middle so far. They'll get filled out. There are 40 of these foods. I just very, very much enjoy talking about each and every one of these. The ultimate Asian test, sitting on durian with clothing for 30 seconds without crying. That's Asian hazing. Fires, do you like your durian more as stinky socks or fresh vomit? Aroma. I think that if you like Parmesan, and I'll just do Parmesan so I can do my Parmesan rant right now. If you like Parmesan, I don't think that some of these other exotic foods are going to be that challenging for you. Parmesan, I think, goes right next to blue cheese for me. Parmesan, to me, actually, it goes in 50-50. Here's why. Sometimes, if I'm in the mood for like a pizza that slaps extra hard, I'll add Parmesan for sure. But when I walk into a restaurant and I'm hit with the overwhelming smell of Parmesan, to me, that's actually less appetizing than the smell of durian, because I think Parmesan smells like body odor, which I am more highly averse to, whereas durian smells like garbage, which I know is crazy to rank garbage above body odor, but I think I have more negative association with bad body odor than I do with garbage. That's maybe the hottest take, but it is my sincerely held belief. There's a different kinds of cheese, yeah, different levels of stinky cheeses, but I'm not very well versed in terms of which cheese is the stinkiest. If you know of a really stinky cheese that you want me to try for 10k subs, let me know in the comments, and I'll make a note of it, because I'm game, honestly. As long as that like stink is not of the Parmesan quality, and even so, I would still probably try it, honestly. You said you're American, but can you tell us where in America? I think it makes a big difference because it's a vast country with different cultures. I'll say East Coast America. So a pretty global kind of food culture here. So I say American. When I say American, I mean like America where it's more isolated, stuff that is mostly like truly, quote unquote, truly American in terms of like a colonial food history. That's kind of my perspective in terms of our native culture of food. I enjoy the sour flavor of blue cheese a lot, along with the ultra creamy texture, but I can see why it wouldn't be for everyone that pair well with most dishes. Yeah, it's more like a connoisseur thing. I think people that enjoy cheeses, it's like, to me it ranks as a snack and not like a meal, and so I'm less interested in rating it as a food. Parmesan is poggers. If you think Parmesan is poggers, then I think you'll enjoy other stinky foods that are on this list as well, just because I think that if you can get over Parmesan's BO smell, you can convince yourself to like a lot of these. From Crazy Cheeses, Kasu Marsu. Yeah, the maggot cheese. So that's actually banned, I think. Maybe globally. I don't know that there's anywhere that you can get it legally. And certainly that's one that, of course, I would be interested in trying as long as I understood all the health risks. Because I'm willing to experiment with food up to the point where it could potentially affect my health. But Karzu Marzu, I don't think is going into the 10k subs tier. All right. So Rocky Mountain oysters. So these are a marketing ploy, because they're not oysters. I don't remember who spoiled it earlier, which cellmate spoiled it, but these are bull testicles. I've never had this as a dish before. I don't know really what to expect. My general guess from the texture of testicle is it's probably something like calamari. I don't think it'll be that bad. I think it's probably just a psychological thing. So I'm going to put it at the 10k subs tier. You know, this is something that you can find in America. So I think I'll be able to probably source it from somewhere. And then I'll prepare it as you should prepare it. And I'll give it an honest try and see how it tastes. Okay. Next up is Marmite. So Marmite is a yeast spread commonly enjoyed in the UK, and Vegemite being the equivalent in Australia. I think the difference between Vegemite and Marmite is one of them is just more heavily flavored with other things, and one of them is like more purely yeast. Marmite is best enjoyed in small amounts spread over a piece of toast and butter. This is information that I have learned from Cider, who is from the UK, and I've tried it in the intended way, and I have to say that it's kind of 50-50. It's definitely really strong, which means that titrating how much Marmite you need for a given amount of food is kind of tricky, but at the same time, I have been experimenting with using Marmite as a savory soup base that is vegan. So again, trying to move away from eating meat and animal product, but one thing that is very hard to replace is stock for soup, right? Because yes, I'm aware that you can save your vegetable scraps and then boil them and make a killer vegetable stock somewhere down the line, but it's not very convenient because of the time cost it takes to make a true vegetable stock. And also, you have to rely, you know, you have to get the umami, the savoriness from somewhere, and I think Marmite actually does an okay job at that, being like a pseudo vegetable stock component. And I guess I could just buy vegetable stock as bouillon as well. It's also something that I should probably look into in the future. Yeah, but yeah, Marmite's 50-50 for me. About equal parts of butter and Marmite umami flavor overload. Yeah, I think even for me, for someone that really enjoys umami, it's a little much, although I could see myself acquiring a taste for it in the future. It's a little intense, you know, the first couple times that you have it. Okay. Next up is, and I'm going to pronounce this wrong again, apologies. I'm going to read it as it's written in English, akutak, which is native Alaskan ice cream. So this is, I believe, typically comprised of some sort of animal fat, like caribou or seal, mixed in with some meat and berries to form this kind of fatty ice cream. There's no way that I'm going to be able to actually source this legitimately in terms of like, I'm probably not going to buy caribou fat just to make this, but there are like vegan alternatives that approximate the texture at the very least, which is something that I'm very interested in trying. So the accessible version to make of this would be to use vegetable shortening instead of animal fat. And I know that's probably not very close to the real experience. I would love to have the real experience one day. But that's something that I would probably try to make for myself for a 10k special. I wonder if you can make some really umami mushroom-based soup stock with the right shrooms. Yeah, so I like mushroom soup, but the thing with mushroom soup is that the flavor of the mushroom is not neutral, right? Chicken stock is often quite good because, yes, it tastes like chicken, but ultimately it's just like umami, whereas mushrooms come with the associated earthy flavor, and I find that not to be as flexible. So, for example, I find it difficult. I eat a lot of noodle soups, I think I should preface this. And, you know, if you're really in a pinch, all you need to make a perfectly servable Asian noodle soup is chicken sauce and soy sauce, chicken stock and soy sauce, and some kind of like vegetable like napa. That's all you really need. But in order to make that equivalent in a vegan form, I think you gotta work a little harder, because if you just boil mushrooms, yes, it's going to be savory, but I don't really think it captures the same vibe as a chicken soup, you know what I mean? Yeah. All right. I'm mostly interested in akutak for the vegetable shortening-esque recipe, because for those of you who don't know, Oreos are vegan, and the cream, quote unquote, that they use in Oreos is vegetable shortening. So I imagine that it'll be actually quite good. Whether or not the meat part of that ice cream is good, I don't really know, but I'm willing to try. All right, next up is gefilte fish. So actually Pamela, a cellmate, is the one who suggested gefilte fish. My knowledge of gefilte fish only runs as far back as the bloopers in Rush Hour 2, where I forget the actor's name, but it was just a reel of him trying to say gefilte fish without laughing. I didn't really know what gefilte fish was until I found this in my local grocery store. And it pains me to say, but gefilte fish, kind of unpleasant. So gefilte fish is this, like, it's a fish cake, which my culture is very familiar with. I love fish cakes. But the texture between a gefilte fish and, you know, the culture that I'm from's fish cake is completely different, because my culture's fish cake is like springy, a little spongy. It still has a bite to it, whereas gefilte fish, there's like very little resistance in the texture, so it's a little mealy, I would say, instead of chewy. And the version that I got was uncomfortably sweet. I know that it is customary to serve gefilte fish alongside with something strong like horseradish, but I didn't have any. So right now, maybe I didn't give gefilte fish the chance it deserved. But I kind of figured that it would be still acceptable coming out of the jar, but that was not the case. I found it to be unpleasant, but I am willing to try in the future if anybody has gefilte fish tips. Right. The double whammy of cow omasum and cow tripe. So this is another dim sum double special. These are both must-haves. I get them every time I go to dim sum. These are two different parts of the cow digestive system, and they're both amazing carriers of sauce and flavor, and they also have a fun texture as well. A lot of Chinese cooking is done with ingredients that don't have a lot of flavor on their own, but carry sauces extremely well and are mostly there just for the texture, and I think both of these serve that function beautifully. And so if you haven't had them at dim sum, please try them out. Durian, I already said S tier. Digestive organs tend to be delicious. Yeah, absolutely. Very few, I think, internal organs that I've eaten that didn't taste at least acceptable. Another item that I'm going to mispronounce, hakarl. So I believe this is Icelandic shark. Fermented, heavy in ammonia. I've heard people, friends of mine that have gone and have sampled it, and they have reported that it is probably the foulest thing that they have ever eaten. But the thing is I'm not like opposed to ammonia. There's ammonia in a lot of foods from the culture that I'm a part of. And so if I can make it work, I'll try ordering hakarl. I know that you can get them shipped. I just want to find a good price on them. So I'll maybe try them for 10k subs. All right. Balut. So I believe this is a dish from the Philippines. It's another one of these YouTube kings of gross out content. This is a fertilized, I think it's a duck embryo, but I'm not entirely sure. It's a fertilized egg, I should say that much. And so the chick inside is partially formed. I've had it described to me as the most savory egg you've ever had. And so to me, I'm quite interested in trying it out. If you already eat meat and this is like, offensive, I'm not gonna get into it. I would like to try balut. Unfortunately, from the little research that I've done, you have to like order 40 of them. And if I don't like them, I'm going to be stuck with like 40 of them. So that's a maybe for the 10k special. I would probably not try balut or century eggs. That's fair, but let me make a pitch for you. So century egg, This is like a runner-up in the YouTube tournament for gross out content. So this is an egg that has been cured. Oh, I don't remember what it was cured with. I think it's cured in lye, but someone can correct me if I'm wrong. So if you cure it in lye for long enough, then the outside texture of the egg white becomes this black gelatinous texture, and the inside becomes this creamy black, the yolk becomes creamy and black. And so, you know, I remember watching Rhett and Link sample this, and they like instantly, instant upchuck, which is fair because the century egg in terms of flavor is quite sulfurous. It would remind you of a rotten egg. But the pitch is that, you know, when people eat this on YouTube, they don't eat it like it's meant to be eaten. They just take a bite out of it, which is certifiably insane, right? Like, you wouldn't just take a shot of soy sauce either. And so the correct way, or one of the correct ways to enjoy this, is you cut it up into attractive little slices, and the way that my family used to do it, we would sprinkle a little soy sauce on top and have small bits of it with white rice. The better way to enjoy this is in a pot of porridge, or xifan or zhou, like Chinese porridge, where you then mix in pork floss, which is another item that I should have added to the list. But basically, it's comfort food. It's delicious. The little nuggets of cream and jelly add interesting texture to congee. And the most intense parts of the sulfurous flavor kind of get mellowed out by having it in a bowl of porridge. So if you are ever in a place where you are offered congee, again, at dim sum, they're likely to have it, especially if you go to a dim sum in a Chinatown. I highly recommend that you give it a try. It's really, really mild when you have it in porridge. Definitely not as bad as YouTube makes it out to be. I had it in porridge as a kid. It tastes pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Like, it's about enjoying foods in their proper context. And I don't mean to like dunk on Rhett and Link for like not giving these foods an honest try. They're content creators. They gotta put food on the table. And I don't think it's as good of content if they were just like, yeah, that's not bad. You know, like, I get it. But I really do wish, like, the content that I want to see is like someone trying their hardest to make the foods appetizing, because I don't know, like, if I hear that one of my friends enjoys a food from the food culture that I grew up with, that's a nice feeling. That's a shared point of connection. I think that when you like something that I like, that means that, you know, our friendship points have gone up in that kind of way. Yeah. All right, so century egg to me is an occasional craving. So I don't buy them to prepare. Like, I would much rather use a salted duck egg if I'm making congee at home. Just because I'm a little weirded out by buying century eggs in stores. I don't know why. I grew up with them. They're fine. But you know, I prefer salted duck eggs over century eggs, but century eggs definitely have their time and place. Okay, bird's nests. So bird's nests is a compound typically found in Asian traditional medicines. It is very expensive. I do not buy this. All of my experiences with this food have been from relatives gifting us this thing when I was a wee lad, a wee stem cell. So I have to say that bird's nests on its own, again, with a lot of Chinese cooking, it's like, it's more there for texture, although the soup that it's typically served in is pretty good. The ingredient itself is not like anything to write home about, but yeah, I would put it in acceptable. I'm not mad if I'm served it. I would never buy it, but it's perfectly fine. If someone gave it to me, I would most likely eat it. All right. For me, bird's nest is mid and then low tier once your brain realizes what it is. Yeah, it's true. I guess I should fully explain that bird's nests are... so there's this bird called, I believe it's called a swiftlet, and part of how it builds its nest, it kind of just drools all over it just kind of drools, and the drool kind of solidifies into a matrix that they can then store their eggs in. And so bird's nest is a far more appetizing marketing name than bird spit. But, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do to get your product sold, right? To me, that idea doesn't really gross me out either, because my disgust tolerance is quite high. It's just not very impressive of an ingredient outside of the cultural meaning, I think. Okay, gators, crocodiles. So another food native to the United States. I had this as either an alligator sausage or a crocodile sausage in a specialty sausage place, which is kind of fun. A lot of meat out there can be described as different chicken, and so this is in the different chicken tier. It was all right. Not really all that much to say because it was sausaged, and so I can't give, you know, I don't really know what the texture was like because, again, it was sausaged. It was all right. It was all right. I would try it again one day. It was probably gator if it was in the US. Yeah, probably. If spam isn't at least on occasional craving. I have a spam story to tell. So why don't we jump to spam then? Okay, so spam is, I think it's an American product. I would be surprised if the origins of spam were somewhere else, but spam is a very highly processed pork product, and I'll spoil it now, and I will say that it is, if I had another tier between occasionally craving and acceptable, then I would put it there, because I have very pleasant memories of spam. So when I was a kid, there was a blackout, and during that blackout, you know, I'll put it in occasional craving. During that blackout, I was so young, I didn't realize how potentially in peril we all were. So bless my parents for making the whole thing a fun time rather than like apocalypse. So my parents had invited all of our nearby relatives to like bunker out in the summer. I believe it was in the summer. And so we had like the coolest, cool as in like temperature, not cool as in awesome, but the coolest property, so that we could all sleep well at night, because it's hot in the summer. And so at the time, we had recently moved into the home, and since all the electricity was out in like the entire area, we only had gas burners, and since the fridges were not supposed to be opened, we couldn't access any of the actual fresh food that we had. It was the first time that I had spam, and, you know, using this gas burner, huddling around in the dark with candles that we got from the 99-cent store a while back, with my entire family there playing poker. It's just a really pleasant memory, and I associate the taste of spam with just like one of the coolest nights I had as a kid. Probably a nightmare for the adults in the room, but as a kid it was awesome. I got to play my Game Boy until the batteries died. It was great. And as an occasional craving, spam does get, if you couldn't tell, I'm a fan of Asian food, and spam does get incorporated a lot into Korean cuisine as well. So I'll occasionally crave something like that, although I can't justify buying it, because I like cooking foods that both Toxo and I agree on, and Toxo's not as big of a fan of spam as I am. It's also not great for your health, so. Yeah, it is an American product. I believe it was created, at least popularized, in either World War I or World War II. That sounds right. It does look bad already. Spam musubi is S tier. I have not had enough spam musubis in my life. I should have taken advantage of the fact that our university had like a Hawaiian student association. It sounds great, and I would probably almost definitely enjoy it. Yeah, very tasty, very flexible. All right, fish eyes. So, I believe you can buy huge tuna fish eyes in Japan, and you can have dishes that are specifically catered to consuming fish eye, but the way that I have had fish eye is just with regular, like, steamed fish, and I would you know, it's on the plate. I'm from a culture where eating a whole fish is not that crazy. I know that some people really dislike it when the head of the fish is on there. You know, A, like the cheek meat of the fish is the best part of the fish, and B, the eye is actually not that unpleasant. There's a little bit of a crunch because there's a lens there, but you can just kind of ignore that and just go for the vitreous fluid inside of the eye. It's reminiscent of animal fat. It's not bad. Depending on the mood, I guess it's a 50-50. It's definitely not gag worthy in my opinion. Eat fish eyes and it will make your eyesight better, Asian parents. True. Didn't work for me at all though. Well, I guess my friends have it worse. My vision's not terrible. I do need vision correction, but I guess on the spectrum of needing vision correction, I got off pretty lucky. Often have spam with eggs. Optionally with some syrup. That's interesting. That sounds quite Canadian. Vitreous fluid. True. I mean, I'm just being descriptive, right? Not a fan of eyeballs as an edible organ. They kind of freak you out. I mean, I think that's fair. It's a niche thing to enjoy within an already niche thing to enjoy. So I don't judge. Except again, if you go to dim sum and you only order what you can get at any old American Chinese store. Okay, cordyceps. Cordyceps are fungi that infect... I should have looked this up before. I think they infect a caterpillar. And they live in this like general area of a fungi that has like behavioral... It's a fungi... Cordyceps are a pathogenic fungi that can alter the behavior. They're the inspiration, I don't remember what the property is, but I think a cellmate had said it earlier, for this kind of like zombie mind control thing. But they're actually also medicine. Well, traditional medicine. I should be careful to make that distinction. And so they're actually worth their weight in gold, which is what my parents tell me. Which means that we never buy them, and that the only times when I've been able to sample them is by getting a very expensive gift from a distant relative. And these are, I think they're in between unpleasant and 50-50 in the sense that they don't really have a taste or a flavor. They just kind of crunch. So where did I put Byondegi actually? Byondegi is in unpleasant. They're a little better than Byondegi in the sense where they don't carry with them the earthy flavor of dirt. They're like neutral Byondegi, I would say. So also pretty unpleasant. Insects, ants. Oh, are they ant parasites? I could have sworn they were a caterpillar. I would not have expected them to be crunchy, given that they're a fruiting body. Yeah, so when you buy them, they actually come dried as a preserved kind of ingredient. They infect a lot of different insects, and even arachnids. Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. So I think the kind that is sold as medicine is a caterpillar then, and not an ant. Although, so then I don't know whether or not they have the same behavior altering properties on the caterpillar if what you're saying is true for ants. There are a bunch of different species of cordyceps as well. So cordyceps are something that I would love to do one day. Maybe in collaboration with, you know, bug expert VTubers. That would be very fun because, you know, my realm is cell and molecular biology, and outside of a few model species that I'm aware of, I actually don't know a whole lot about other species' biology. Okay. The cool thing about cordyceps is that they don't actually take over the creature's brain, just the nerves, and control the muscles. That's so interesting. That's very unnerving too, in the sense where you're being controlled physically and you're not even aware. Oh, well, you're fully aware of it. That was like Animorphs. That's just unlocked a core memory, right? Because I guess spoiler for Animorphs is that the parasite in that series, I believe you're conscious of being controlled the entire time, which was always a terrifying idea to dwell upon as a kid. So next up is haggis. So haggis is a dish that comprises of a whole bunch of organ meat wrapped in a whole bunch of organ meat. I don't really know what the order is or what the layers are, but it's just a bunch of meat wrapped around a bunch of organ meat. And I would really, really love to try this one day. It's unfortunately a bit hard to source. I'd probably have to buy it frozen, which isn't ideal. But for 10k subs, I definitely would love to try. I've never read any of the Animorph books, but have vivid memories of how crazy the book covers were. They were extremely appealing. I'm a big fan of Birds of Prey, and one of the characters, Tobias, stays as a morphed animal for too long, and then the rule for that is if you stay as an animal for too long, you just permanently become that animal. And he got stuck as a red-tailed hawk, I believe. And I was like, damn, that's so cool. That's so cool. What a cool idea. Haggis is not that bad if you like eating blood. Interesting, interesting. So I didn't expect haggis to be blood flavored, honestly. I expect it to be a lot more mealy. Like, I guess if there's enough heavy blood organs in there, then that makes a lot of sense. Hello, Megacraft. Welcome, welcome. Hope you are not in the middle of eating, because we're rating some cursed foods. Cursed for some people. For me, they're mostly fair game. So next up on the list is olives. So olives, again, not that exotic to the majority of people in the world, but olives are an example of the context and history really mattering, at least for me, because even though you can see, like, I like a lot of strange and strongly flavored foods, but olives, I'd say that 80% of the time that I have an olive, it is unpleasant. Have I had good olives? Yes. I've had good olives at restaurants that are, like, restaurants that are going to have fancy olives. So, like, special occasion kind of restaurants where, like, the olives that they serve to you at the table are, like, the olive to have, right? Every time I've tried a normally priced olive, like at a Trader Joe's or something, I can't get into them. And I have an olive every time I'm allowed to, right? If there's like shared pizza and there's olives on the pizza, I'll have that slice because I want to enjoy them. I come in as open-minded as humanly possible. I try them in all sorts of different combinations, paired with all sorts of foods. I've yet to acquire this taste. It has been like my white whale of common foods that I have yet to learn to appreciate. So unfortunately, olives, might upset a bunch of people, but to me, they're quite unpleasant. I like olives and I hate them. Yeah. I think that is accurate to my experience. Like, only when we've had really nice olives from special occasion restaurants was I like, this is acceptable, but I've never found an olive that I would go back for, which I think is a good metric to see if you actually like a food. Black and green olives have totally different flavor. Black are less bitter and more oily. I take any olive I'm given. I try every olive. If there's a buffet bar and there are olives at the like salad bar, I try one of each kind just to check if I've learned to appreciate them. And speaking of like common things to appreciate taste from, this applies to beer too. I would also put beer in the unpleasant category. Every time we go out, and if it's to a brewery where the social expectation is that you have a beer, I would have a beer, not because I'm pressured into drinking, but because if I'm there, maybe this is the brewery that is going to brew a beer that I would enjoy, and it's just not. It's just not. Maybe it's that I don't like bitter foods, but if I were to rank licorice, I would put licorice at occasional craving. I don't know. It's weird. I love olives, at least pickled ones, because salty olive flavor and texture accommodate stuff like Puerto Rican yellow rice extremely well. So that's something that I'll have to keep in mind. So I could see, just like how century eggs are mellowed out by rice porridge, I could see olives being mellowed out by rice. So I will try that. I will open up a note. I'll open up a notepad right now, and I'll give another report, because honestly, I do want to enjoy olives. I think there's a lot of complexity, and there is just not complexity that I appreciate. So this is Puerto Rican olive rice. Okay, I will try that. I'm gonna try that. How can I love olive oil but hate olives? Please explain the science. True. I love olive oil. Olive oil is great. Same way I like ketchup but can't eat tomatoes. That's true. That was me for a long time, until one of my mom's friends made a dish that was literally just sliced tomatoes, and she dumped sugar on it. And I was like, holy cow, this is amazing now. Maybe it has to do with the raw acidity of a normal tomato, but tomato plus sugar? Don't knock it till you try it. Did I stumble upon a white blood cell ranking food at 4 a.m.? That is, in fact, what you have stumbled upon. I'm a professional phagocyte, which means I've tried all sorts of wild food, as you can see on this tier list so far. I think if you've had good Puerto Rican rice with olives, it'd be arroz con gandules, or rice with pigeon peas. I'll definitely keep my eye out for that, because I could see that working for me. Add sugar to make things taste good. True. It usually has some chopped ham in it as well. That does sound good. All right, next up we have gooey duck. So gooey duck, this picture is small enough that I'm pretty sure I don't have to censor it for YouTube, but gooey duck is a shellfish that looks like a big my 7th grade teacher referred to it as an ultimate spaceship, which because somebody had drawn one of these on a school desk, and they were trying to get a rise out of the teacher, being like, oh, look what like so-and-so drew on the desk. And he was like, oh, an ultimate spaceship. And that's now a core memory for me. So gooey ducks look like an ultimate spaceship is what I will forever say. So can streams get demonetized? They can. I have first-hand experience. I don't know why we were demonetized, but we were. Fortunately, that stream was remonetized, so I could get back my 3 cents that I made from it. Yeah, so gooey duck. So gooey duck takes a lot of expertise to prepare. You probably are not well equipped to prepare one at home. And so, at least for me, the place where I've had this is at like a Chinese restaurant that's banquet style, in the sense where if someone is getting married and it's a really fancy occasion, you might see a platter of gooey duck. So gooey duck, they don't look at all like this when you eat them. They kind of remind me of, oh, I don't know, like squid maybe? And I think they're delicious. So gooey duck, the flavor is very subtle. It's oceanic, which you could say for a lot of seafood, honestly. But the texture is like crunchy. It's kind of in between jellyfish and calamari. Which, by the way, jellyfish, I should have put on here as well. Jellyfish is acceptable. Jellyfish is acceptable. But gooey duck is like a cross between jellyfish and calamari with the taste of the vague ocean. I don't know. And I think it's actually quite excellent. Toxo had gooey duck, I believe, the first time when we were dating. Toxo, you want to tell them what you think about gooey duck? They're usually chopped and look like squid rings when cooked, if you recall correctly. I don't really know if that's uniformly true of all preparations. To me, they were just like kind of flat and kind of bumpy. Yeah, gooey duck is great. Gooey duck is great. Really expensive though, so go make some Chinese friends, make close friends with them, and then attend their wedding, and maybe they'll have them if they do it Chinese style. I've heard of some soup made with jellyfish beforehand, and I really want to try it someday. So, my recommendation for if you ever stumble upon jellyfish is to have them as a soy-based salad, soy and vinegar-based salad. So, I think Din Tai Fung does this, where it is like tossed and marinated in something that's a little sweet, a little spicy, with a little bit of zhejiang black vinegar, which is my go-to sauce for dumplings, honestly. And what you get is an excellent seafoody, cucumber-ish kind of deal, where it'll really be able to funnel a delicious sauce in the texture of like a weird cucumber. And I think it's pretty good, but nothing to write home about. I made the mistake of telling Phi's parents, and now if we ever go to their place, we get gooey ducks. Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know if anybody in chat can relate, but once I tell my parents that I like anything, it's all I'll ever get whenever I go visit them. And like, I love them for it, right? Like, it's such a sweet thing that they remember the foods that I like, but it's truly so overwhelming to have it every single time. But I don't have the heart to tell them that, like, we still have left. I mean, I do tell them, actually. I do tell them quite regularly how oftentimes they'll give us so much food that we still have leftovers from the last time we visited. But I feel bad because gooey duck is not cheap. It's not a cheap food to enjoy, but they want to spoil us. And part of, I think, being a good child is to allow your parents to do that to you just a little bit. You are literally costing Phi his livelihood. Not me, my parents. I don't buy gooey duck at all. I think my favorite food is chili, which can be made quite cheap. Chili is so flexible. I love chili. It's been difficult and I know that this is a point of debate, right? Because some people believe that what is it? I think that some people believe that there should not be any meat in chili, or that there shouldn't be any beans in chili. I don't remember what the split is in terms of what the definition of chili actually is. But what I have found is that when we try to go vegetarian for a chili, that oftentimes I find that I am unable to quell the craving for meat in a chili. Like, I've tried making bean-only chilies before. If anyone has tips to make it more meaty without actually adding meat, I would love to hear. I enjoy both like a maniac. I do too. I mean, that's kind of what I grew up with, but I just remember reading some discourse online, and you know that there's nothing spicier than food discourse online about how technically chili shouldn't have either beans or meat. I don't quite remember. Had vegan chili that used tofu instead of meat. So my strongly held food opinion is that tofu should only be used in cuisines where tofu is used. So substituting meat for tofu in other cuisines, you can experiment, but I've never seen that done successfully, except like maybe one time. Again, you can experiment, but I've never seen it done in a way where it made me happy. And that's, you know, coming from a culture that very much enjoys tofu. Okay, snails. Snails are a occasional craving. I don't mind working for my food. You know, I'll peel shrimp. I'll crack open a crab. I've been shamed recently when we last went to visit my relatives about how poorly I did in terms of excavating all of the meat off of the crab, which is fair. I didn't do a great job, but I don't mind doing it. I don't mind learning. Snails do require a good amount of work. My favorite would be the rock snail tossed in chili garlic sauce. It's not like a meal, but if someone else made it for me, I would definitely have a couple. Very seafoody, very savory, as all shellfish tend to be, and carrying that chili garlic sauce, just incredible. So it usually isn't that good, but it tends to be better than not having it at all. I can see that. I can see that. I just really wish that one day the vegan substitutes like Beyond Meat and Impossible Meat come down to a price point where it becomes affordable, because, you know, again, I would love to be a vegetarian/vegan one day. One of the reasons why it's hard is because to kind of substitute meat and buying these like substitute products, it's not that easy to do. But hopefully one day with testing 1 2 3. Hello. I think I'm back. Am I back? Am I back, y'all? Thank you. Sorry, I tend to get so wrapped up that I didn't even notice that y'all were probably yelling at me through the space of the internet that my mic disconnected. Because the device was still recognized by my laptop, but it didn't actually push any audio, so I'll definitely keep an eye out for the levels in the future. Yeah, the FDA finally got me. Thank you. Yeah, the FDA is going to be on my rear definitely for this stream, considering some of these are not food safe. So, I don't really know when my mic cut out, but basically Stargazy Pie, I'm totally cool with having this. I'm from a culture where eating fish heads is not that crazy. I just think it'd be kind of fun to make. I'd buy some, you know, ready-made pie crust and probably make this Stargazy Pie and tell you about it at 10k subs. Okay. So next is aspic. So this is a form of food that is in a lot of different cultures, I think, except for America, which is kind of interesting. So aspic is meat jelly. So it comes from boiling the absolute crap out of, at least in my culture, it's pork hogs. So like the legs of the pig. And what that does is that it extracts all the collagen from the skin and the bone. And when you let that cool after boiling it for hours and hours and hours, you get this thick set jelly. I think that you can do it with more than just pork, but I'm familiar with it being pork. And so it sets in this super hard jelly. Not super hard. It sets in a jelly. And it's very, very savory. I think in Eastern Europe it's called holodents. But I know it as aspic. So aspic turns a lot of people off because they hear the word meat jelly and they immediately tune off, but I can assure you that meat jelly is actually delicious. It's not like American vintage where they're using Jell-O to make foods that don't need Jell-O. This is just like, you know, when you like make stock, the stock can become gelatinous too. It's just basically eating that as a dish. So aspic is great. I think aspic, definitely an occasional craving. It's hard to find in a restaurant. I think you could probably get it at certain Chinese restaurants, but I'm not entirely sure. Sometimes I make my own aspic, but the issue with that is that I end up making so much that it's all we eat for a couple of days, which is not as pleasant. Okay. But aspic makes it is a good segue to talk about American vintage. So the thumbnail, it's a little small, but American vintage is, I don't know if you know, but there are recipe books from like the 50s where like the Jell-O company was just starting to like hit its stride, and there are all these like cookbooks out there that use Jell-O, like fruit flavored gelatin, to make these horrible salads that look truly awful. And like, I think this was a time in American culinary tradition where convenience foods were just becoming a thing, and learning how to incorporate convenience foods into home cooking. There was maybe this time where they were trying to figure out what to do with hot dogs and Jell-O, honestly, and mayonnaise and Miracle Whip, and that all looks incredibly terrible. I will try to make one of them for 10K special, I think. I've never had anything like a hot dog and jelly sandwich salad, but I think there's a reason why people don't make that anymore. So the thing about all of these other quote-unquote cursed foods is that people still enjoy them to this day. They have stood the test of time. American vintage is gone. No one's serving hot dogs encased in gelatin. That's just like not a thing. So I think categorically they're going to be terrible, and my optimism is shattered. And for those pioneers that tried those foods to know that they were terrible, were they pioneers or were they marketing executives working for Jell-O and whoever and Hellman's? You know what I mean? Like, was it really food pioneers? Unless you're talking about like colonial pioneers that were making like Johnny cakes and stuff, which I respect. But that whole like cookbook thing, I think it was just to sell Jell-O and microwaves. All right. Okay, snake. Snake, not a very common ingredient. Had it when I was visiting my relatives. It's in the same category as alligator, I think. It's a chicken-like, so it's pretty close to chicken, but not as good. So it just simply goes next to gators. Turtle, though. Turtle's pretty good. Turtle's pretty good. I think that turtle is definitely an occasional craving. So the entire animal, I believe, gets eaten, so there's very little food waste in that sense. And the inner lining of the... So I don't actually know if it's a turtle now that I think about it. It might be a tortoise. But if you get the correct edible turtle, then the shell gets very soft and gelatinous and is edible once it's stewed for long enough. And that has a very like rich kind of texture. And then the turtle meat itself is like chicken, so it's pretty good. Next up is, I didn't expect the shell to be edible in that way. Yeah. I don't know where you would get it. Again, most of these weird foods I've had in my childhood, I would have no idea how to get them again. But you know, if you find yourself in a culture where eating this kind of food is normal, I would recommend it. Blood sausage. So blood sausage is commonly known for being a UK thing, but Korea also has their version of a blood sausage, which is the version that I have had. So I've not had black pudding. I've not had blood sausage from the UK, so I can't comment on that. But blood sausage, the Korean blood sausage, I find to be kind of 50-50. It wasn't that good, but it wasn't that off-putting either. I don't really know if it's a taste that I could acquire. I don't find myself latching on to anything in that experience that would make me want to go back for more. Although maybe if I had it with beer or soju, it would be more pleasant. I did just kind of have it fried, very simply. We also have them in Spain. Interesting. Is there anything that you do to prepare blood sausage before consumption? Because I just straight up just fried it because I didn't really know what to do with it otherwise. I hated them as a child, but I like them now. They have rice, onions, and where I live, sugar. Interesting, interesting. Another try. Maybe in a future tier list where I re-rank some of these. Although, I imagine... I mean, I don't know, you can tell me, Mega Craft, but if you bought them from a butcher, like a meat person, versus a grocery store, I think that experience might be a little different. Fried on a pan with onion and pickled cucumber. Interesting. Yeah, I think maybe I'm missing the onion component, because on its own, it's not really that good, in my opinion. Are incredible. They are a must-have. So there's not a lot of meat on a frog, so, you know, the work to payoff ratio is kind of not great. But the thing about frog legs, or frogs, is that they are a chicken-like, like gator and snake, but they're also a fish-like. They're like a perfect cross between chicken and fish, which means you get the brininess and the, like, default seasoning of a fish, and the and so, again, the culture that I'm from, I've had this fried in a similar style to Sichuan style, and they're truly awesome if you get the opportunity to try them one day. My dad had frogs like once, but something about them made seem really unappetizing, although I hear they taste very good. Yeah. They taste really, really good. I don't know where you would get them apart from restaurants. And they're not cheap either. Again, a lot of this stuff is stuff I've had as a kid. But if you feel like splurging on an interesting culinary experience, I definitely recommend getting them next time you can. I'm actually from Canada, believe it or not. I'm from Canada. I've moved to the States. But yeah, I've lived my life here. It's just that, you know, where I live on the East Coast, there are lots of opportunities to experience cuisines from other places. All right, brain. Brain is a no. This should be not surprising. Brains carry the risk for transmission of prion disease, and I know that the transmission rate is quite low, but I don't mess with that chance. Not worth it. They don't even seem that they would taste good. And honestly, I think the texture and idea of it, like, I'm pretty okay with everything on this list in terms of being open-minded. Brain, close-minded on the brain. Pun not intended. They're like 80% fat or something. I enjoy eating fat, but I think that there's something about that level of fatty tissue is upsetting. So brain might be the only no of this whole tier list. Very good in survival situations, I can imagine. Very efficient source of fuel. A neutrophil rejecting eating neuron cells, a classic. True. We'd be in trouble if I acquired a taste for neurons. Shirako. Shirako is cod sperm. This is 50-50. I honestly wish I had more to say about it, but it kind of doesn't taste like anything. So it's just a texture which is also kind of nothing. It's fine. It does not look or sound appetizing. Yeah, I mean, I had to try. And upon trying, I can confirm that it's not even an interesting experience. Like, because it's one thing if it's good or bad, because then at least you react emotionally to the experience. Shirako, I think, is in the disappointing experience. It's really nothing. I've heard some people really like it for some reason, but I couldn't tell why. Yeah, I like hearing what people like about the foods that they eat, because it helps me kind of get into the mood. Like, if you tell me, and there's something that in the unpleasant tier where you're like, oh, but I actually like it. If you tell me why, that's going to make it taste better to me next time because I'm easily influenced in that way. Next up is crickets. So crickets live in the Yondegi tier. Again, I love the idea of eating insects. Have never had one that made me go, oh, hey, that was kind of good. I think I had them. Oh gosh. I think when you fry them and salt them and you can buy them commercially, then they're not bad. Yeah, I think I bumped them up to 50-50. At that point, when they're that dry and that fried and that seasoned, you're just eating a high protein potato chip, which I guess is like not bad. But all of the actual insect flavor is removed when you do it that way. Now, I know that I said I paint them in the ultimate best light, so I think at best it's a 50. You know, at best they're acceptable if you buy them prepared for you. All right, stinky tofu. Here is part 2 of my Parmesan rant. All right. I love stinky tofu. Every time there's a restaurant where they serve stinky tofu, I get it almost 100% of the time. It's basically required for me at this point. It's very hard to get in the States. Not a lot of restaurants will serve this because, again, it's literally in the name. It's stinky. But it's also like a putrid kind of smell. So instead of body odor like Parmesan, it's like more on the garbage side. But actually, unlike durian, which still retains some of that nastiness from the smell, stinky tofu I think doesn't taste like the funk at all. It's like really garlicky and briny because it's marinated in that brine. But like you have like bitter, you have garlic-y, you have the like good kind of smelly qualities to stinky tofu, and the texture of stinky tofu is also pretty incredible when they fry it like that. I think if you don't like tofu as like a textural component to things, then you should try tofu that's been fried in the way that stinky tofu is fried, because it's unreal. It's nothing like the blandness that you would typically expect from tofu as an experience. I've heard stinky tofu is really tasty, but I've never seen it in my life. It's quite common. Yeah, it's quite common in China. Whether or not you can find it at a Chinese restaurant if you're not in China is tough. Yeah, I've had it in Taiwan too. I think it's easier to find in Taiwan night markets, where they're very readily accessible and you can see and smell them, so that you know what you're getting yourself in, so that you know that you're getting yourself into that kind of experience. So it's less commitment, because if you smell it at a night market, then you can make the decision then and there if you want to try it. Whereas if you order it at a restaurant, you're kind of pot committed once you tell them that you want it. But I definitely recommend it if you ever get a chance to. Maybe you'll have to hunt around in your local Chinatown. Yeah, it probably doesn't exist here in Florida. Yeah. But if you do travel to cities where the Chinatown is very prominent, it might be hard to find, but I would be surprised if you couldn't find them. Welcome, Brianna C. Gamer. Holy cow, durian is number 1. I love durian. Durian is basically fruit that became ice cream. And I think in a Faustian bargain with the devil became smelly as a result. But if you get past the smell, durian is actually really good. Duck tongue. All right, duck tongue is an occasional craving for me. So there's not a lot of meat on a duck tongue, but the way that you would prepare it from where I'm from is to boil it in Coca-Cola, which is crazy because that can't be how it's traditionally made. But if you do that, then you get the very rich fattiness that typically comes with duck, combined with the sweetness and like herbiness of Coca-Cola, and it's actually really, really fantastic. It's just a little frustrating to eat, but I do occasionally crave that flavor. All right. That is the exotic quote-unquote foods tier lists. I'm gonna have one more look and see if I like where these are positioned, and maybe I'll even order them within the tier. So sashimi, definitely the best. Behind that, stinky tofu. I love stinky tofu. Durian can be bumped, followed by frog legs. Liver's quite good where it is. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this order. So occasional craving. Aspic is very good. Duck tongues are very good. Turtle's up there. Spam and yep, I think I'm good with that. And then the acceptable tier. I like that where that is actually. 50-50. Fish eye is probably above Marmite. Yep, that's good to me. Unpleasant. So Ariane is the one that I think that I could acquire a taste for, so that's going to be up top. Olives probably next. Cordyceps are like nothing, so this is like perfect neutral ground here. And then these three I actively had like a negative response to, so that's good there. In the no tier we have brain. Yep, not trying that, not trying that at all. And then the foods that I will attempt to source for the 10K special. So we have Sustromig, which I'm going to record ahead of time because I'm not opening that in my recording setup. Rocky Mountain oysters. I'll try to find, yeah. Akutak, Akarl, Balut, Haggis, Stargazy Pie, and some kind of American vintage, which I'd probably also do ahead of time. Yeah. So I think that's it for me. In terms of this tier list. Thinking about brain just reminds me that head cheese exists, which just sounds like an unnecessary pre-on cocktail. Yeah, I don't think it's worth it. I don't think it's worth the experience. Like, I have learned that I do have limits. So I think I told the story before, but I'll tell it again. I'll leave this up. I'll move myself up. Now that we are done with the tier list, it's just chatting time. So I learned that I do have limits. Brain is one of them. The other limit is I have found my maximum spice tolerance, right? So as I mentioned early on in the stream, I'm like information addicted. I really like figuring out sort of what my own stats are, right? And one of the stats that I really love to push is my ability to handle spiciness. So back when hot pepper gaming was a thing and Hot Ones was just starting out, I like ate a raw habanero, crunched the entire thing, seeds and all, just to see whether or not the people that were on hot pepper gaming were playing up their reaction, right? Because again, they're like crying and salivating, and it's content, it's good content, I enjoy it, but I just wanted to know like how much were they playing up that raw habanero experience. It turns out that I do think that if you do have a good spice tolerance, eating a raw habanero is not that big of a deal. You will learn your spice tolerance in Bangkok. I can imagine. I would love to go one day. Because that, like, not only do I see that as a challenge, I also do very much like spicy foods. But like, would I eat a raw habanero again? Like would I eat a raw habanero again for some kind of monetary reward? Yeah. You could pay me to eat a habanero for sure. It wouldn't even be that much money, mind you, if I were to rate how much it would take. But the absolute limit of my spice tolerance was the one chip challenge. The one chip challenge that killed a couple of kids. I don't remember when, but they had to pull it because they had such a severe reaction. I didn't even like record it for content. I just wanted to know, like, this is probably the highest Scoville thing that I am able to source, and I bought it at a random bodega where we live. And that was the worst pain I've ever felt in my entire life. Any bodily injury, maybe any emotional scar. I don't know. At that level of spice, hotness as a sensation ceases to exist and it becomes pure pain. Like, there's no sense of heat. It's just your body thinks you're being attacked from the inside out. And you could not pay me enough to have that experience again. So even though I really love finding out new things about myself and experimenting with all these things, that is one where I have drawn the line firmly. That one's not even worth trying, because where I draw the line in terms of self-introspection, if something's going to traumatize me, that's where the buck stops, right? I'm not here for long-term damage. I'm here to push my limit, and the one chip challenge exceeds that kind of limit. You should try chicharrones if you can get it easily in the US. It's a divisive snack food in Spain. I love it, but a lot of people hate it. Chicharrones, are they like... Oh, God, I'm showing my ignorance here. Are they pork cracklings? Like pork skins? Fried pig skin, right? Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, we have them here in the US. I've not actually tried them yet. Actually, did we? I think maybe Toxin and I did try them one time. I think maybe we tried a version that was vegetarian, which is sacrilegious probably. But on your recommendation, next time I go to my grocery store, I will try chicharrones. Yeah, I definitely will try them next time I'm in the grocery store, because we definitely have access to them. But yeah, don't do the one chip challenge. Could not recommend it. It's certifiably insane and borders on I'm actually not going to say that. Basically, you shouldn't do it. It hurts way too much. You'll never be the same person again. To the point where now if I taste anything with I forget what the peppers were, but I think Carolina Reaper, if I even have something that's flavored like a Carolina Reaper, I immediately flash back to that one chip challenge. So yeah, I think that was permanent mental damage done with that experience. I think I got a defective chip from the one chip challenge when I tried it. It wasn't very spicy. Interesting. What color was the chip? I had the one that was blue, and the one that is blue is a good deal hotter than the one that came before it. I've had some ghost pepper chips before too, and they were really good. Yeah, ghost pepper things can be flavored and be quite good without being overwhelming, especially if what they're after is that like smokier taste of a ghost pepper. But when it's that hot and that bad tasting, it's not even justifiable as food. It is more of a mouth experience. Yeah. Orange, I think. Yeah, I think the orange one chip challenge was like the first iteration, or one of the first iterations. The one where they had to like shut down production was the blue one. So unfortunately, I don't think you can get that one anymore because because it is exactly the kind of thing that dumb teenagers would do and not prepare adequately for. I shouldn't say that they're dumb. That's not fair. That's really not fair to them. Because I did it, which was also dumb. So I guess if I call them dumb, it's only fair to call myself dumb, because it could have been way worse. Like, I don't know what mixture of biology made it so that they could not tolerate it, but there's no reason to expect that they would have known that that was going to be the thing that ended their life, right? So I shouldn't be that callous. Spicy food should be good because it is good, not because it's spicy. Exactly. Which is why a lot of these gimmick hot sauces are just for people that want to emulate the Hot Ones challenge, which is fun, but I don't think that you can convince anybody that a sauce like Da Bomb is gonna be good tasting. In fact, like, I like to get the spiciest thing at a restaurant, again, just to test what they define as very spicy. But then if I return back to that restaurant, I'll usually try to calibrate what I would actually enjoy, because I'm not here just to hurt. I'm here to actually have a good time. I just like to know how far I can go before the times become not good. Wash down spicy food with alcohol, or if you don't drink with milk, capsaicin dissolves in alcohol and fat. Yeah, so that's definitely good advice. However, the part of the one chip challenge, at least the blue one chip challenge, is that it is, let's just say that the mouth pain is secondary to the gastrointestinal distress that you will find yourself in. That's actually the part that makes you think that you are in actual medical danger. And I think that's not worth even trying. So this has set like a good bar in terms of like, I will not eat food that will actively hurt me, like Karzu Marzu, the maggot cheese. You have to wear eye protection for, and I'm like, not really into that. Arguably, sticky tofu isn't like great for you either, from what I understand. And you know, shout out to the FDA. Some of the breakdown products from sticky tofu are from, I believe, from like putrefaction, so not fermentation, where it's ethanol and friendly yeast byproducts, but actual rot, which is not great for you, I would say. So, you know, keeping an eye out on the FDA. I don't know if sticky tofu is FDA approved, so I cannot make a recommendation that you try it based on any health purposes, and, you know, should inform you that there are risks, right? All right. So the reason why I did this stream is because I am at 6.5k subscribers, and I am anticipating that April onwards are going to be very busy months for this channel, especially when summertime comes, when I have all the time to make content. So I wanted to make sure, and by the way, I have like my next couple of weeks worth of content already planned. I just haven't uploaded them to a schedule or anything, just in case something's changed. So I wanted to do this now while I had, you know, before 10k. And I'm not saying that, oh, I'm definitely going to hit 10k in May or April or whatever, but since I am aware of my schedule of this channel going forward, I figured it'd be good to do this now so that when I actually have the 10k special, we'll actually have it when I am around 10k instead of a whole month late, like we did for 1k. So with that in mind, I think that is going to be it for me. I'm just going to do my pluggable one more time. And that is going to be this collab with Nep. So if you've stayed this long, hear my pitch out one more time. I'm too old for streaming. Please make more long-form content. I have a video about Archaea that's currently cooking. I'm like a third of the way done with it-ish. I'm really excited to show you what I've learned about Archaea, and more importantly, what I didn't learn about Archaea, because of how mysterious they are. So, not to worry, my main commitment in this channel is my long-form content. Streaming is just something I do because I find it to be fun. So here's my plug. This is a collab that I will be doing next week with Nep. I will plug her channel in the chat. Let me pull up chat. Yeah. So that is her channel. She is a horticulturalist and also likes talking about bugs and stuff. If you like a comfy, cozy streaming environment with someone very knowledgeable about plants, I would highly recommend her channel. She also does like a lot of art streams and craft streams, which have been very entertaining and fun to watch. A very different vibe than what I do, but if you like that kind of cozy environment, I do highly recommend her. We're going to be talking about phytoplasma, which are a plant pathogen. I actually don't know a whole lot about plant pathogens at all, so it's going to be great talking with somebody who does know a thing or two about plants, so we can work through this journal club. I'll publish a community post if you want to read along, or if you just want to read the abstract. This is an open access paper, so if you want to kind of do the journal club with us, then you're more than free to read the paper on your own as well, which is very exciting. So with that in mind, I think I have one more thing to plug, and that is I am going to, I think it's, yeah, you know what, I'll do it. So there's a very special video coming out tomorrow. I'm not going to spoil what it is, but just keep an eye on your subscription feeds, because I don't want to spoil what it is, but it was very fun to make. We'll just point it that way. All right. Oh yes, thank you, Toxo. Yes, the collab will be on my channel next week. Thank you. Yep, keep your close your eyes and ears tomorrow. But keep them open for your subscription feed. Remember. All right. With that in mind, yeah, Toxo sus. Let's get some of these going on. With that in mind, I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening to this white blood cell talk about weird foods. And I will see you next week where we'll be talking about plants with nap. All right. Bye, y'all. Goodbye. I have to do the thing. Bye. While I do this.